So I got the chance to try out Modern Warfare 2 last weekend during the free beta, as I'm sure many of you did, and I was super excited for the game, maybe less so because it's a new Call of Duty, but more so because I wanted to see if they could do better than Battlefield this time around. Call of Duty and Battlefield have traded blows for what feels like an eternity, so when one of these games releases, it's always hailed as the COD killer or the Battlefield killer. Remember 2042? Yeah, that was supposed to stop Call of Duty in its tracks, but just look what happened. Now it's fair to say that Modern Warfare 1 was a massive success, and interestingly, the release timing of that game saw Battlefield in a similar place to where it is right now. For me, personally, I had just come back to YouTube after taking a few years off. Battlefield 5 was the latest game then, which turned out to not really be my cup of tea, and then boom, Modern Warfare release. It looked super polished, it had great gun animations and sounds, and I actually bought a new Call of Duty game for the first time since the original Modern Warfare 2 way back in 2009. The year after that, Bad Company 2 released of course, and it was all Battlefield for me from there on out. So here I find myself in an eerily similar predicament. Battlefield 2042, while seeing some improvement, still isn't doing so well and has left a bad taste in the mouth for many of you. And here comes Modern Warfare 2, the next title to its wildly popular predecessor. So can it kill Battlefield like everyone says it can? No, it can't, and I'm going to tell you why. Most of the gameplay you're going to be watching is of Ground War, the Battlefield-inspired game mode, and this is really the closest way you can compare the two games to one another. Modern Warfare 2's version of Ground War to me feels largely the same as it did in Modern Warfare 1, a cheap imitation of Battlefield's Conquest mode. Now don't get me wrong, if you think of it as a larger version of Domination, that's what it plays like, but in my opinion, to compare this to Battlefield is just laughable. Let's start with the vehicles. Even though Battlefield 2042's vehicle design is some of the worst in the entire series, they're still head and shoulders above that of Modern Warfare 2's Ground War vehicles. So first off, there are no pilotable jets. There was one transport helicopter in the beta map that actually did have a cool feature. You could walk around inside the vehicle as it was being piloted. Kind of reminded me of the way things work in Star Citizen, in fact. But other than that, there were no helicopters. Now, I do recall the attack helicopters from Modern Warfare 1's Ground War though, and they basically put a little red box around the enemy for you, just like a chopper gunner. They had insane splash damage, and it was just a farm fest. So if they're going to be anything like that in Ground War 2.0, then obviously they'll be ridiculously overpowered. Now there were tanks in the beta, but they only had a third person mode. There were no repair mechanics, and they can be damaged by small arms fire, making them feel more like a freebie kill streak than a vehicle to aid your team with. Honestly, all the vehicles in Ground War just feel like fluff, except for the transports maybe. You know, people are there, in my opinion, to play large scale infantry combat, and the vehicles just get in the way. I think it would simply be a better game mode without them. So the gunplay was very slow in this game, and it seems to be quite controversial. Some people prefer a more fast, slidey, flanky type gunplay that rewards twitch aiming, whereas others prefer a more methodical approach, ADSing around corners, listening for footsteps, slightly more realistic, I suppose. And this is definitely that latter kind of game. Now unfortunately, that sort of gameplay really lends itself to people who like to camp in corners on objectives, camp on rooftops prone with a sniper, and it punishes aggressive play. And with Ground War having so many players, that sort of gameplay becomes even more prevalent. The weapons in Modern Warfare 2 also have way more visual recoil and effects than ever before, and whilst this does look quite realistic and cool, it doesn't really do that much for the gameplay, and players have already begun sharing fixes on how they can tweak the options to tone down that visual recoil. Then there's the skill-based matchmaking. This has to be one of my biggest dislikes with Call of Duty in general. You play one round and do really well, and then get absolutely trounced in the next one. I've actually seen gaming websites reporting on how YouTubers reverse boost a secondary account to allow them to matchmake into an easy lobby and record better footage. As far as I understand it, what they do is they buy a second account, play really badly on that account so as to get into an easy matchmaking bracket, then they'll queue up for a game, wait for it to find some players and lock them into that easy bracket, and then they join the second account with the first account. Then they just hit the record button and boom, nukes all day long. If people are actually playing the game badly with the sole purpose of playing against easier players, call me crazy, but you've got a problem there. Now, this isn't really a comparison here, but my god, I thought the menus Battlefield 2042 shipped with couldn't get any worse, but Infinity Ward, you guys have proved me wrong. You've got panels on the left, and then within those panels are sub options that appear at the top of the screen, and then on top of that there are these quick settings that can be custom set, which is kind of cool, I guess, but it makes the whole experience even more confusing. And then there's another option menu that pops out on the right. It's just so convoluted and it's hard to explain, but if you know, then you know. Trying to navigate this with a controller especially is just oof. Now, there is a single player campaign, which is more than can be said for Battlefield 2042. That's probably going to be pretty great. The campaign in Modern Warfare 1 was pretty killer, so I wouldn't mind playing that. But in conclusion here, I think Modern Warfare 2 is catering to their own player base, the people who really love Call of Duty. But for me, I think I'm going to skip this one. And whilst it sounds like I'm hating on the game, if you love Call of Duty and you want more of the same that Modern Warfare brought you, I'm sure Modern Warfare 2 will deliver. I feel like I already, got my fill of that with the first game, and if I want to play it, I can just hop in Warzone 2.0 and play that for free. And Warzone is arguably the best thing about Modern Warfare anyway, so I just can't really justify paying $70 for it. Overall, it largely feels like the same game to me, the same way Cold War and Vanguard felt like reskins of Modern Warfare 1, only with new maps and weapons. And perhaps that isn't a bad thing, after all, there are lots of Battlefield players who would love to see a Battlefield 4 2.0, right? If the formula is working, then why change it? So whilst this is looking to be a good Call of Duty game, I don't think it's going to replace Battlefield anytime soon. Now, a lot of players are between FPS games here. They're wondering, should they pick up Modern Warfare 2 or should they finally take the plunge and buy Battlefield 2042 perhaps on a discount? Well, if you want my honest opinion on if Battlefield 2042 is worth it or not, you can click the video on the screen now for my Season 2 review of the game. But how about you guys? Will you be replacing Battlefield with Modern Warfare 2? What did you think of the beta? Leave me your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.